This video will be less visual than what I usually upload. It's fine if you just listen instead of watching. What I'm going to do is talk about the current state of things and where I believe it's all heading. In the video I include references to other sources if you want analysis of a specific subject, but overall this video is more about the bottom line. So first things first, let's start with the intro. I record this video in March of 2023, about 3 years after the first lockdown. And the media that pushed the measurements and treatments now says that maybe it wasn't all necessary. And that's where I want to start. We all know that they lied about everything for this entire time. But do you think they're honest now? Obviously they are not. News channels talk about damages and side effects for a couple of reasons. I think most of us personally know people who were damaged, so it's not realistic to hide it anymore. But this kind of articles also puts people in a lot of stress, like the news always does. The focus on the physical damages also hides something else. The purpose of it as I see it, which is preparing the world for what comes next. In the video I have the reference to where I explained the connection to mind control, if you want to get more information about it. In short, I think the behavior of many residents in the cities is a result of the lethal injections and the antennas that were installed all over in the last few years. What I'm saying is that there's no point in talking about vaccines anymore. You should try to detox if you got it, but I hear some people expect to get justice from the court. It would be funny if it wasn't so sad. The same judge who signed off taking away your right to decide what gets into your body will help you get revenge against Albert Bourla. Good luck with that. If you want to be stuck on the topic, that's your choice, but there are a million things going on right now that deserve more attention. So I say let's move on and have our focus on what's next. Maybe we can do something about it. The bigger picture is that the end time events from every religion speak of the tech industry and what the world will experience. To give you an example about how bad corporations are, and that it's not all about money, I'm gonna tell you the story of Nestle's business in Pakistan. The company was accused of poisoning a well so it can sell bottled water to a certain village. While it can be seen as a way to make profit, does this amount of new customers justify the bad public relations that Nestle got out of it? Because when the story came out, Nestle's reputation got hurt badly, and the few thousands of poor Pakistani villagers are not going to make up for the losses. So why did they actually do that? Secret societies do this kind of stuff to train new recruits. Members need to be able to make unpopular decisions without blinking, and they will later get promoted to key positions where they have a lot of influence and their morals shouldn't stand in the way. But if you can't make difficult choices, that's fine. Enjoy the average salary you will get for going to the open space office every day. So why is it so evil? That's because the people in power serve demons. It's that simple. There's this channel that uploaded a video series about the Nephilim looking like clowns. It makes solid arguments and it leads to a new conclusion. By the way, I don't have any idea who is behind this channel. I just think this research is worth mentioning. I reference some news channels and mainstream sources too. So for some it could look like I promote chills or something. But I address the argument and not the speaker, which is what makes me such a great guy and why I have so many friends. And maybe if you were a bit more like me, you would actually get invited to places sometimes, instead of being looked at as that weird conspiracy theorist that no one wants to talk to. And your parents wouldn't ask themselves where it went wrong. And I'm sorry if it came out too harsh, but some of you needed to hear that. Walking around like a peacock because you weren't vaccinated while your country is burning. Anyway, back to that video about Nephilim looking like clowns. According to many sources, DMT entities also look like clowns, which is why I believe that these are the Nephilim trying to get back to this world on the expense of innocent mushroom users, as much as mushroom users can be innocent. Everyone who met DMT entities described them as helpful and nice, but really, if they want to gain your trust, how else would they do that? So, who are the Nephilim? The hybrid kids of fallen angels who mated with women were called Anakim. The next generation was called Rephaim, and then came the Nephilim. So the Nephilim are the third generation of descendants of fallen angels who mated with women. Since they were giants, they were always hungry and ate all the food. When it wasn't enough, they ate humans. The descendants of the fallen angels were wiped in the flood except for Og, king of Bashan. But the souls of the Nephilim were not destroyed. They became the demons who tried to take over the bodies of dumbasses on DMT trips who don't have a clue what they got themselves into. And there are other means of communication with them, AI and tech in general, as well as public and secret rituals. And that's who the elite is serving. Now back to our world, we have the 15-minute cities agenda. The predictive programming for that has already begun. Now obviously, nobody wants to live in a ghetto that monitors his every action. You won't be able to leave your area unless you're a good boy who got all his vaccines. You know the drill. But to get there, the government first has to get everyone used to police and military checkpoints. And there has to be a good reason to implement that. So pay attention to riots that get out of control. My guess is that racial tension will play a big part. The way I see it plays out is that first, the groups that are targeted are small minorities.
The fuck you say about my mama?
I don't want any trouble. Just get out.
You talking shit. Every time I come in this motherfucker.
So first Jews and Asians are targeted and maybe a few other small ethnic groups. And it's an option that each of these groups will have its own Kanye West. After that, I imagine there will be 3 groups in control, and each group hates the other 2. And this really depends on where you live, but in most places, the groups will be whites, blacks, and Muslims. First, cities will be taken over by armed gangs, and people will have to hide in their homes, and the checkpoints will be the government's solution to keep everyone safe. There is something like that going on now in the United Kingdom, so I think that's where the pilot for the race war will take place. What's going on now is hostility between the local population and the immigrants or descendants of immigrants in the country. The outcome of this race war will be the formation of the 3 groups, whites, blacks, and Muslims, and these groups will fight each other until there's some sort of balance in control. If you want an idea of how it's going to work out, you could think of the game GTA 2. There are basically 3 gangs and you play as a freelancer. Being affiliated with one gang makes the other gangs hostile towards you. Each gang controls its own territory and its members are hostile towards the other gangs. But for normal people, life in the city will become so unbearable that they will beg the government to intervene. The government will send the military to disarm the gangs and monitor citizens' activities. From there to a prison smart city is a really short way. Some people will be able to live outside the smart cities, and the World Economic Forum doesn't want that. So what's the solution? 2 solutions actually if we look at Black Mirror. People who live in rural communities will face augmented transhuman soldiers, and there will be the people who just run away as far as they can. Remember that weird Black Mirror episode where robotic dogs chase after people in nature? It's never explained why the dogs are chasing people. Were they chasing criminals? What if the crime was escaping a smart city? We saw the videos of these robotic dogs patrolling streets in China, but maybe the purpose of developing them is to hunt down anyone who escaped the city. Everything in this show becomes true eventually. Now that is how the method works. Everything is tested and implemented step by step. And why is that? When big structures are taken down, it is done with controlled demolition. A building is not destroyed all at once, but in phases. And then what happens is that the collateral damage to the surroundings is minimized, and there is no chaos that leads to unexpected results. When the government started shutting down businesses because it was so concerned for our health, most of us expected that the economy will be destroyed beyond repair by the time that the public realizes that it got scammed. But instead, the economy came back to be somewhat functional and most people could recover from the damage. While small business owners and workers in certain fields weren't able to recover from the blow, most people survived it. Nowadays, the economy is slowly dying. Every now and then, a few thousands lose their source of income, and those who don't are thankful for being able to keep their head above water. And that is controlled demolition. No unexpected behavior of angry mobs and minimum collateral damage. This guarantees that the public won't rebel against the technology that kills it until it is too late. And for the world to have a hero, there has to be a villain. The World Economic Forum and its puppet political figures made it clear that they work against the interests of the common people. Besides the lockdown measurements, a good example for that is the land confiscation from farmers by the Dutch government. And we have public figures who supposedly fight against the World Economic Forum. So let's head to America, where a New York based billionaire and the former president of the United States claims to be targeted by the authorities. Donald Trump is in the middle of his political campaign for the next presidential elections, but Trump's role exceeds the usual importance of a powerful politician. Because in the current climate, when ancient prophecies are fulfilled one after the other, anyone paying attention to the script is actively looking to see who will turn out to be the Antichrist. Trump gains more power and support because of his alleged war against the elite, and the way that the media deals with him makes his supporters seem as a martyr. This is why Trump is what I call a fake Antichrist. If everyone expects the Antichrist to appear now, there has to be at least one fake Antichrist to draw the attention from the real one. So how do we get an Antichrist? We need someone who is praised as a savior for helping humanity defeating a worldwide threat. Most people expect this threat to be the fake alien invasion from Project Bluebeam. Honestly, from what I see now, I expect it to be more down to earth, so the digital ghetto of smart cities is my guess. I talked about the identity of the Antichrist in my video End Times Prophecies. Now let's talk about the prophecy of Gog and Magog. In the book of Ezekiel, there is a prophecy about a war that will take place someday in the future and will be the time that God reveals himself to the world. This war will be led by a leader by the name of Gog. Quoting from the text, "Set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal." Gog is a person. Magog, Meshech, and Tubal are sons of Japhet, son of Noah. This part means that Gog leads the sons of Japhet, considered to be those who populated Europe in the generations following the flood. Gog is therefore the leader of the West. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army. Gog is megalomaniac and has ambitions to control the world. But this could be said about so many people, so this doesn't really help with identification. Persia, Kush, and Put will be with them. This means that Iran and Africa will join Gog's army. Also Gomer with all its troops, and Bet Togarma from the far north with all its troops, the many nations with you. Gomer is one more son of Japhet, another western nation in the far north. We could conclude that Gog will be the leader of the world, possibly the future world government. The specific part about the far north makes many people assume that Gog's origin is Russia, because it is the biggest country in the far north. But I have an alternative explanation, because there's one more huge powerful country in the north. It could be that the land of Magog is Canada and that Gog comes from there. In that day, when my people Israel are living in safety, will you not take notice of it? That's probably the most curious part of the prophecy, because since when is Israel safe? And when will it not suspect an attack? The answer is that Israel will be in a state of false peace, which will be abused by Gog to attack its people. If you follow news regarding the Middle East, then you probably heard of the recent agreements that Israel had with countries in this region. When Gog attacks the land of Israel, my hot anger will be aroused, declares the sovereign Lord. In my zeal and fiery wrath, I declare that at that time there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. The fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the beasts of the field, every creature that moves along the ground, and all the people on the face of the earth will tremble in my presence. This description sounds a lot like Revelation 16 that describes God's punishment. And that leads me to the conclusion that the power Gog is credited with resembles the description of the Antichrist. Elon Musk has, of course, roots in Canada, and there are question marks over the identity of his dad. Musk wants to control everyone by putting brain chips in them, and it doesn't get more megalomaniac than that. Some believe that Putin is Gog and Russia is the land of Magog, but it's necessary to have diversions in order to keep the majority of people confused and unprepared. Like I said before, for Gog or the Antichrist to get the validation that he needs, he has to defeat an enemy. In my second video in the End Times Prophecies series, I mentioned that Armilus, who is considered the Antichrist in Judaism, is not really the Antichrist, but a tyrant that will be defeated by the Antichrist. Armilus is described as bald with one eye bigger than the other, so naturally I imagine Jeff Bezos being this person. But for now, I don't see any moves done in this direction. We have Klaus Schwab promoted as the big evil that Musk speaks up against, so I'm gonna wait to see where this is leading. Bottom line is that I still think that the best course of action is to call out Musk and sabotage artificial intelligence. Technologies like ChatGPT should be avoided unless you know what you are doing. And I explain how to sabotage this tech, but there really needs to be a high participation rate for it to succeed. In my End Times Prophecies series, I included a timeline of how all three religions predict the world to end. If you take a look at pagan religions, they also foretell the same story, but from the other perspective. So in the Norse mythology, for example, we have Ragnarok, which is Armageddon told from the eyes of the fallen angels. And that's all I have to say for this video. My name is Narcotic Slag the Obese. I publish my work on YouTube and Odyssey, and if that's not enough content for you, you could join my Telegram channel. Okay, bye.